We're going to talk relationships on this video. And if you're married, not married, dating, single, but you want to be in a relationship, this is the video for you. I just returned a few weeks back from the Love and Passion relationship trip with Tony Robbins. And it's part of the Platt Partnership. And Michael and I have been really privileged to be a part of this ecosystem. And I've just finished my second year of Platt Partnership and going to renew again, has made a decision. And because the level of people in the level of the room and the vulnerability and the willingness to grow and share is very profound. And so I just wanted to give that background. So this is the book. We went for 6 days and it's pretty thick, and I'm not going to go through the entire book. I just wanted to share my takeaways on what I thought was really moving to me, because a lot of people have been asking me, what is it that you guys did for a whole week in Tulum, Mexico? And how can you sit there and talk about relationships for 12 to 13 hours a day for 6 days? That sounds like most people's hell on earth, right? No one wants to really pick apart their marriage or their significant relationship. And there were a ton of singles there too, which I was always blown away by, people trying to learn about themselves and who they want as a partner. And so I'm going to reference back to my notes. We also got this great little notepad. I got this little jacket. We get little swag and stuff. But there was definitely a little bit of downtime as well. In the mornings, we got to do some fun activities and went and explored the caves underneath the Sitones. I think I always say it wrong. Did like the zip lining and the ATV ride, things like that. And we had a couple of free mornings, but overall we were going well into the night and getting home till 2, 3 in the morning. So, we definitely had our content in, and it was definitely long days as per Tony's fashion. Anytime I go to one of his events, we kind of decide that sleep is probably not going to happen. So we also got one of those vitamin IVs done, both of us, and that was a very amazing experience and highly 10 out of 10 recommend if you're traveling or going to be around a lot of people. I definitely think that's one of the reasons why we did not get sick. So, just understanding why this interesting relationship conference was so paramount. Michael and I are getting ready to celebrate 25 years together, married. We eloped December 27th, year 2000. Before that, we had been together almost 5 years. So we're getting ready to celebrate 30 years together next July. And we met very young, and we have navigated so many things. Like, his dad lived with us and we took care of him until he passed away. We've navigated helping and supporting our family. He took care of his sister for a long time and his mom, and gosh, what else? We had Sebastian. He's on the spectrum. He's 19 now. That was really hard, having a special needs child. And then Clover's had her seizure stuff. And then we had a late and late child. And I also had breast cancer. So these are all of the funny things life has thrown at us in a relationship. So you can imagine all of the seasons that we have been through and how life has challenged us in every single way. One of the things is that specifically they said they were going to focus on 3 things. And I have this written down because I wanted to share it specifically, because how do you create or rejuvenate an extraordinary relationship on every level, right? Because they asked the question, how many of you are in a 10 out of 10 relationship, passionate, loving, all the things. And there were people that stood up. I thought that was really cool to see. And then there was people that he asked, how many people are in a very loving relationship, but there's no passion? A majority of people stood up there. How many of you are in a relationship that you're trying to get out of and you're plotting the exit? How many of you in a relationship that it's over? How many of you in a relationship are not in one and want to be in one? And how many of you don't want to be in one? So, different people stood up, and I thought that was really cool. But, how do you deal with these inevitable challenges that are going to come? It's guaranteed. It's called life and the journey that you're in. And how do you nurture and expand relationships so there's a level of fulfillment and everyone's needs are being met, and experience life exponentially? We're here such a short time. Like, why do you want to be in a situation where you're unhappy or miserable, right? So I think it's understanding that, and he really went back to his basics of understanding state and meaning, that communication's only a cry for help or a loving response. It either fits in one of the 2 camps. I thought that was really very paramount to understand, because I don't think it's always the case for people. I actually took notes because there's so many notes. We had a lot of speakers. Esther Perel was there, Jaya, who talks on the blueprint for sex. There's intimate relationships discussed, which is so important. It's the only thing that differentiates your intimate relationship with another relationship is that you have sex. Right? That was a really big thing to talk about. In the mornings, we'd had S Factor, which taught women like how to do sexy dance, like pole dancing. But it really wasn't about just being sexy. It was about opening yourself as a woman and finding parts of you that maybe has died. And the men did this TFT combat class, which was really cool. I think they learned a lot of like masculine, like how to be a mirror, that kind of stuff. And there were definitely like same-sex people there as well. So this wasn't just geared towards men and women relationships, but it was in the same-sex marriage or relationships there's still a masculine and feminine nature on each side. And so you would go to where you tended to lean towards. One of the things was that at the end, it says, what are your big takeaways and how are you going to grow and change? And one of the biggest things for me was sticking to the 7 truths to an open heart. And he labeled that out. And that was a really, really good segment of the lesson, because I think we tend to demonize our spouses and put blame where it doesn't belong. And I think that I'm guilty of that. And I would guess that a majority of people are guilty of that. Like, we're so easy to point out what the other person's doing wrong, what they need to do. And, I circled this too. If a man stays present, meaning they have a presence, then that's the elixir to what women need. And I think what happens in a lot of marriages, especially women that are strong like myself, that run businesses and that tend to be the breadwinners sometimes or doing things, their husbands or partners don't want to fight with them. They don't want to have 2 people going against each other. So they will submit in a weird way. And that tends to be very repulsive to us women. And we don't even realize why. And so it's just this really weird game that happens. He really spoke about feminine and masculine, which I thought were fascinating. And basically it's like understanding, how do you create a raving fan as your spouse? And how do you become a raving fan for them to make life better in your marriage? And are you in a place of understanding what they need? So dropping the blame was the first thing, like recognizing my behavior first. That's really hard to do when you're pissed, right? Dropping demonization, realizing the stories of being the villain, it's not fair, because we distort, delete, and generalize the past. You come together to experience love together. It's not about, let me make someone the evil person. Responsibility is being able to respond, like being able to respond in things. Let's begin anew. That's one of my favorite quotes that was talked about. Dropping expectations. I think there's a book, The 4 Agreements by Miguel Ruiz, that talks about that in there. It's one of the 4 agreements. And it's the thing that ruins a lot of people, and switch it for appreciation. Like, where can you find a piece of appreciation? Taking full responsibility when anger comes out. It's the hardest thing to do. Why am I so angry in this moment? And the minute you tighten as a woman, tighten up, you go into your masculine. It's really weird because I could see it happening for myself. So that's something I really learned. Choosing openness over righteousness, even though it's in painful circumstances. That's 5. 6 is recognizing the other as a gift, a mirror. They're not here to give you what you want, but open up to give you the capacity to love. And a lot of times you attract who you mirror, who you see, and there are characteristics in your partner that you wish you had, or there are things that you want, and that's why you're attracted to them. 7 is our capacity to let go, letting go in the name of love. And I wrote this quote and put many stars, is that forgiveness is the price of peace. And to have peace in your soul, you must forgive. And forgiveness of yourself is how it has to start. And then whatever you resist will persist. So sometimes you just have to let it go. So that was number 7. So those things are huge things I wanted to take away. The next thing I was about the concept in our workshop with Jaya. She was the sex therapist workshop. She talked about different types of sex that, you took this test and you're either energetic, sensual, sexual, which is like what you typically think of as someone that likes sex, kinky, which people have heard of, and then shapeshifter is someone that can go in between. And so there was like tests on that. And during the workshop, she said, try this exercise with your partner if you're not on the same page in the bedroom. And first you would go back and forth and would say, tell me something you love about me. And then the other partner would say, thank you. Or if they didn't understand, they say, can you clarify? Or if it's too long, run on and say, can you summarize? And then the other person would go. And the next thing would be, tell me something you want me to understand about sex and you, like about themselves. And the same thing, you would say, thank you, can you clarify or summarize? And the last one is, tell me something you think we agree upon sex. And so it was a space without like being shameful or embarrassed or whatever to share. And like you're connected and you're looking in each other's eyes when you're doing this. So that was a really good exercise. And Esther Perel had something similar to that, which I'll share here in a minute. And the next thing I thought I took away that I wrote down in my notes is sewing. It's SEW. And that's like when you get really worked up on something, what sensation do you feel in your body? And this comes from Dr. Julie Cromwell or something like that. And not just like the feeling, is your throat tight? Do you have a headache? Does your chest hurt? Are you like tensed up? Like, what sensations does your body feel? Second is, what emotion are you feeling? Are you happy, sad, angry, excited? And then what do you want? And understanding how to work through that. So he kind of explained that whole process. Fascinating. And he's demonstrated it with a couple that he did interventions. So the interventions were insane during this conference, like 2-3 hours sometimes, but the lessons that everybody got from him teaching one couple something is what his gift is. It's magical to watch unfold. So that was huge. And then Esther Perel, which I just said before, did a similar thing back and forth, is I turn myself off when ... An example for me is I turn myself off when I get really stressed about work, or there's too many things on the calendar and I feel like I can't get everything done. The next one would be I'm turn myself on when ... Like for me, it's like when I get enough sleep, when I've exercised, I've eaten well, when I've cared for myself, basically. I awaken myself when I get to laugh and, have adventures and do stuff like that. What awakens me as a human. And another thing I wrote was stop playing a role that I haven't been recruited for. And that was said by Esther Perel when there's a lot of people that go, well, my mom did this and my dad did this. I said I would never be that person. Like, you're fighting so hard to not be someone else that you're not allowing yourself to evolve how you need to, because you've justified a reason that you're taking a role. And that was a really, really, really interesting kind of thing that unfolded in my brain. And I think one of the things I wrote on here is you have to have faith that things will unfold as it should, and have trust and let go. I think that need to have certainty, which is one of my needs for sure, is the control I need. And that's why I have security and I freak out. And I think having Michael understand that's a really crucial need for me, that he can meet me where I am when I'm feeling unsafe and uncertain. One of the things he talked about that was mentioned the last relationship trip we went in Maui was, women really need to be seen. We need to be seen. We need to be understood. We need to be heard, and we need to feel safe. Not just physically safe, we need to feel emotionally safe and secure in the relationship in order to really unfold and allow our true selves to show forward. And on the flip side, men need to feel free. Like, they have to feel like not controlled, like, where are you going, where you been, what you doing, that feeling. I think men do not like that. And I can't think of any man that cares for that. It's a trust that he's going to come back and do what's right. Second, you have to be open to them and not closed off, because a lot of women tend to kind of close off towards men. And then the last one is be not criticized, is to praise them. And he's always like, you women that are coaching. And I thought, because I'm a coach and I tend to coach without even realizing it. So those are kind of things that I personally know I needed to work on. And he really talked about the rejection breeds obsession. So when you get the rejection of that, makes you obsessed with something, that you have to let that go. And he really looked at the state. There's a triad, the state and the action and behavior is what's going to bring your results. So if you're in a really bad state, a mental state, you're going to take a bad action, which is going to have a bad behavior, which is going to have a bad result. So that's really, really big to think about. And we wrote a conduct, and mine was, I trust and faith in my life and have love and passion, be an amazing, extraordinary love with Michael, with intimacy and connection, fun as we conquer the world. And I want to the list of things I want to be is admiring, playful, fun, flexible, willing, loving, forgiving, appreciative, with gratitude, trusting, adoring and affectionate, considerate and in service of. And my life will change because it starts with me. I fall in love with me and all the edges and will be drawing everything to myself. So again, it was a learning and unfolding on how do I let go of shame? How do I let go of past stories of how I was raised and, who didn't do what and didn't show up for me. It's really that you just can't allow those things to creep in. And when they do, you have to make attention and effort to reach out and say no. And some of the best things that happened on this trip were the Enneagram lady came and I found out I was a 4-1 and that blew my mind. And Michael's an 8-7. For those of you who haven't taken Enneagram, I highly recommend it. And then for Blueprint for Pleasure, we kind of did our sexual blueprint, which was fascinating, and learned a little bit more there so we could open up. And then Donna Eden and David Feinstein came again. I love them. And they talk about the energies of love, and there's visuals, kinesthetics, digitals, and tonals. The gentleman that came on to speak about, raise secure kids. There's very few, but you can learn to be secure, but there's like avoidant attachment and avoidance and, all those kinds of things to help you at least understand where you are and who you are and understand your partner. And in that place of understanding, you do open up, you do have an unfolding of like, wow, like I did not realize. And this is a place to have that understanding and try again. One of my favorite exercises that we did, and I first learned about it at the very first relationship, and they do it at Date with Destiny, is the Ho'oponopono prayer. And it's just looking at each other and saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. And it's just over and over again. And it's just, not that you did anything wrong necessarily, but it's just, I'm sorry and forgive me for any transgressions or anything that could have happened that contributed to whatever's going on. And there's just some kind of healing that happens in that place. And it's just truly magical. I kind of went all over the place in this video, but I just thought it was really interesting to share all the different pieces. And Michael and I are discussing about doing a joint webinar to kind of share our takeaways and how we're working on making our marriage better. I think in sharing and teaching others, it really helps re-solidify the things we've learned, number one. Number two, implement it more and make ourselves accountable to growing and applying the things we've learned instead of just talking about it and knowing it, but actually doing it. One of the biggest things he talked about too is understanding the seasons and understanding the archetypes of women and men. That men kind of go through a very linear, birth through, we called it a page, a knight, a prince, and tunnel, and a king. And women shapeshift. We go from, at the core of us as a lover, and we go from like maiden to mother to mystic to queen to sage. Like we can kind of shapeshift to huntress, to all these different things. And what does that mean? Women go through a tunnel as well. I talked about women going through perimenopause and how that affects relationships and just self-identity and what's going on with us in the biochemical storm in our physical bodies, our mental bodies, our emotional bodies. How 5 stressors show up in our marriage, in a relationship, which causes, which a lack of polarity causes. So when you don't have the negative feminine energies attracting each other, these are the stressors. It's loss of attraction, which is a depolarization, which leads to irritation, frustration, emotional stacking, and stonewalling, which is where the 4 R's stay, which is resistance, resentment, rejection, and repression. And then if you can't handle resistance, it turns into resentment. And that's probably one of the worst places to be. Then you have loss of physical passion, loss of commitments. 4 and 5 is a story of incompatibility. And so unreconcilable differences is what you see a lot of people getting divorced over. And believe it or not, what happens is that you tend to have seasons in marriages and relationships: spring, summer, autumn, winter. And it's just like anything else. There's seasons in life. We were evaluating what season we're in, and I think we're still in summer and, going into back and forth with autumn and back into summer. And, we're really working on having that creative partnership. We've suffered a lot of struggles, and we're in a crazy time right now in the midst of, we have an adult child all the way down to an elementary age school kids. Our mothers are aging. There's so many things pulling at us. And I think we need to apply what we know in our heads into our hearts and stay connected and be on the same team and basically champion ourselves, because at the end of the day, he's my beloved. He's the person I'm going to be with when the kids are grown and gone, and when our parents leave us, it's going to be him. And I think that's the biggest thing, is not withholding and not having shame. And, sometimes we jockey for a position to be right. And I think sometimes it's just better to be wrong in a marriage, so that you can allow, like you said, allow the price of forgiveness and love, and to just love someone through the hard stuff too. And the tunnel for the men is very difficult as well. You can't be like, you're in a tunnel. It's not really gonna help a man. And understanding how men communicate versus women, so important. And I think we took the intentionality to take the time to learn more. I'm reading these books now. I'm dedicating more time to foster our marriage and our relationship and my own relationship with myself, so I can show up better for him. And in our relationship, it teaches our children, so that future generations then will be affected in a positive way. So it does trickle down. It's not just about me or him. It's about our future generations that are going to be impacted by this relationship. So that's where kind of I lie, but to be more kind of a stream of consciousness video today. I hope you found this helpful. If you're curious for more, please subscribe and DM me below if you want to know more about relationship. I do want to do more videos on this, and specifically what you found interesting, so I can delve into different topics maybe. Till next time, stay empowered, and bye.